Well, hello. Today is Friday, July 27th, 2018. This is our Leader as Coach series. And today we're going to be talking about building a foundation of trust or building a coaching relationship with the people on your team that you want to be coaching. The reason we're actually having this as a topic is I coach a lot of leaders, and in our coaching conversations, they're talking about their own coaching sessions with the members of their team. And more organizations are expecting leaders to have coaching sessions with their team. But sometimes a coaching session with a team member seems like an actual coaching session that someone like me might have with a client, and sometimes it feels very different, like maybe a more punitive feedback session, or maybe it's just a very task-oriented where are we at with everything session. So what we're going to do today is talk about if you want to integrate coaching skills into your leadership repertoire, what type of a relationship do you need to create with a team member, and how might you show up in a coaching session to make it more like a coaching session that they would have with a coach? Because the purpose of a coaching session that you have with a coach is to help you be your best self, to help you be as effective as possible, to help you grow. And I believe that's why people have coaching sessions. Managers have coaching sessions with members of their team. But this is easier said than done. So let's talk about some of the key things that make the difference. So the one key thing is, how do you feel going into the session? I want you to think about maybe sessions you've gone into with your own bosses, feedback sessions, or maybe just your one-on-one sessions that you've had with your bosses, and compare that with one-on-one sessions that you've had scheduled with a coach if you've had a coach. And think about how you feel. So I know for myself, when I have a coach and I am anticipating getting on the call with my coach, usually I'm pretty excited about it. I know what I want to talk about. I'm excited about having that conversation. I may have some expectation, but I'm pretty much driven. Like, I know what it is that I want to get out of that conversation. I want to grow. I want to get some insight. I want to get some clarity. And it feels like a very useful conversation that I'm going to have to help me get to my next level. Now, I know often people are pretty excited and have high expectations about conversations with their boss as well. But a good litmus test is, if you feel wary, then it's not probably coaching the way I would define coaching. And if you are a boss and people who you are coaching feel wary going into the session with you, or you find them pulling away from you, then probably you're not coaching the way you could be coaching. So think about those things, and it's really good to sort of put yourself in the shoes. Think about when you've gone into coaching sessions. You know, do you feel confident that your boss understands you and sees the best in you? Are you worried about being judged? Can you trust that nothing will be held back related to blind spots and pitfalls you might not be aware of? So not only do you feel kind of safe and like you won't be judged going into the session, but you also feel like you're going to get really great information that's going to help you succeed. You want to put yourself in the shoes of your employees, and you want to create an environment where they feel safe coming in to talk with you, and they also feel very confident that what they're going to get from that session is going to help them succeed. So what we're going to do is have a discussion with the people who are on the call live, and I'm going to turn the recording off, and then I'm going to turn it back on again. And these are the questions to think about. How do you feel when you're about to have a conversation with your coach versus when you're about to be coached by your boss? What's the agreement you have with your coach that makes it safe? Does creating a safe space for a conversation mean that you don't give people negative feedback? Would you want a coach who did not challenge your thinking, help you see your blind spots, and give you everything they could to help you become the best version of yourself? So for those of you on the call, I'm going to turn the recording off right now, and we'll talk about this for a little bit, and then I will bring all the comments back to our recorded portion. Okay, well, now we're back, and we've had actually a really great discussion, and a couple of things that we got out of the conversation. Well, first, I was really happily surprised to hear that many of the people on our call that have been in corporate experience had many very, very positive experiences being coached by their bosses, where they felt like they got really great feedback and also felt like they could trust the person they were talking to. So that is a great sign that more and more leaders and organizations are becoming better and better at actually having real coaching sessions with their team members when they have their one-on-ones. Another thing that came up in the discussion is about sugarcoating things. So how challenging it is as a coach to give people feedback, because a lot of times when you're having those one-on-ones, you're trying to give them the kind of feedback that they can use to be more effective. How can you give that feedback without sugarcoating things to the point where you're actually diluting the message? And then it's just a lot of nice words, but you're not getting your message across. And that is a dance that is really important, because creating a safe environment does not mean diluting the message. And probably the ideal space that you want to be in is one that feels very safe, but also very clear. So you want to be able to send a very simple, direct, clear message that is very easily understood, but does not come across as judgmental in any way and does not feel threatening in any way. And that's something that takes skill, but we're going to talk about some techniques that you can use to create that. Also, we had a couple of insights about how you can use the same model of creating a safe space when you're coaching yourself. So you may be your own boss, but you may have a lot of discussions with yourself about how you're doing. And you may find that you have a negative voice inside there beating yourself up about how you're doing, and usually that doesn't have a good effect. But if you notice the mistakes that you're making, or you notice areas that you're not as effective as you like, or maybe you'd like to learn more or make different decisions, and you're very open about them with yourself and not judgmental, you'll find that you're more open and able to learn from those things. So I thought that was a really interesting perspective as well. So let's move on to the specific techniques that you can use to practice. So the first one is empowerment. We want to set up our coaching sessions with our team members so that it's expected that they're going to get something from that conversation to help them move to their next level. So it is often good to start with a clear acknowledgement about where you want them and that you believe in them. So what I want for you is to have the most success possible in this job, or I want you to feel confident that you have all the tools you need to nail this. So empowerment. Empowerment gives a vision of what you believe that they can accomplish, and also communicates a belief in their capability to accomplish it. And that ties right into unconditional positive regard. So I told a story earlier, and I'm going to say it again. When I go into any of my coaching sessions, most of them are on the phone, I have to have unconditional belief in the people I'm coaching. And I do. I have to believe that they have the best intentions, that they want to be their best, that they have the talent and the capability to take themselves to the next level. If I don't have that, I get kind of a sick feeling in my stomach. I feel kind of frustrated. I don't really want to get on the call, and the call is not very effective. So it's not often, luckily, that I run into those situations. Most of the people we screen out right in the beginning, so we only take on people that are truly engaged and truly want to be coached. But every once in a while, I might run into a situation where I inherit my clients. So I maybe have a corporate client, and I'm given a bunch of people on their team to coach, or I'm given some team members that really weren't aware that they were going to be coached. And if any of those people are not engaged, or they're very suspicious of coaching, or they really don't think that they quote-unquote need coaching, then that can be a problem. And you may have that same challenge with your teams. Well, as the boss, you may have the ability to select many members of your own team. You may inherit a team, and you may have some people on your team that don't feel that engaged, really don't see much in you, don't have a relationship with you, and really don't want your coaching. And so that can be kind of a challenge as well. But if you can get to the point where you can see their potential, and you might have to do a lot of conscious work to look for it, then you can get to that place of unconditional positive regard, and it will, by its very nature, create a very positive, safe environment to have the conversation. But now, you're not going to be very effective in the conversation if you don't have the clarity part, which is giving the feedback. The best way to do this is honest observations. Talk about behaviors that you notice and the impact of those behaviors. So, for example, let's say you have someone you're coaching who has a very driving style and tends to upset people a lot. You can say, gosh, you're kind of a bully, or you are a bully, or, something else. People feel bullied by you. Or you could say, people might be intimidated by your style, which will make it less likely that they'll open up and give you information about what they're doing. And you can talk very specifically about what they often do, like maybe talk over people, and what the effect is. That person feels like what they say doesn't matter to you. So those are the kinds of observations that you can make. I've had a lot of clients that have had values issues, and they've had to give very sensitive and delicate feedback. And I'll give you an example of one client that I had recently who is a sales manager and works in an organization where some of the salespeople are very down to earth. It's a very heavy equipment type company, so they're used to wearing very casual clothes that they can get dirty. They grow beards, they wear tattoos, and they're very comfortable. And the clients that they work with, for the most part, are like that too, and they have no problem with them. But they're moving into a new corporate segment. And that corporate segment, when they go visit those potential clients, they're all dressed in suits, and they, don't look like beard and tattoo. So she was asking me, well, how do I tell this person to shave his beard and dress corporate to go into these new clients, especially when he's been doing this for a really long time and he hasn't had a problem? And we talked about value systems. So sometimes you're going to have an employee who really takes offense to what you're telling them to do because it makes it seem like you're telling them that they're wrong. So what we kind of worked out as a potential script, and we're still talking about it, is in your job, people decide based on a first impression whether they feel comfortable with you and want to continue the conversation. So in a sales job, your first job in meeting somebody is to get a second conversation, and you need to immediately build rapport. Well, at that point, people haven't gotten to know you for who you really are, so what they're doing is making an impression of you. And their first impression is going to be based on how like them they feel you are, and they're going to do that based on how you look because they're not going to have time to talk and get to know you. Therefore, if you go in with the beard and the tattoos and they're wearing a business suit, that's going to create some awkwardness around that first impression. It's going to be much more difficult to build rapport. You're going to have more doors closed on you. If you are able to trim the beard at least a little bit and wear a suit and tie when you go into these sessions, you're going to be received more quickly, more doors will stay open to you, and more people will be interested in you and interested in getting to know you, and they'll take the time to get to know you. So you have to honor your own value system. I'm not going to tell you to completely change how you dress and who you are, especially if you feel strongly about that. But there are some, definite setbacks that you could encounter in your job, and we're going to be evaluating you on your results, and I want you to get the best results that you can. So that's a little bit of a roundabout way of saying it, but the general idea here is what we're allowing people to make their own choices, and we're creating discussions around behaviors and impacts, but we're never, ever, ever attacking who people are or what their value system is. So what I'm going to do now is turn off the recording again so that we can have a deeper conversation about this and some of the other situations you're facing and how to deal with those. For those of you who are listening to the recorded session, always feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or situations you'd like to get my feedback on, and I would be happy to support you in that.